Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Trey, and I want to talk about DC comic books because I don't think DC understands how big of an American thing they are. And the reason why I'm saying that is because they are starting to get some backlash from around the world about, making John Kent bisexual. And I just want DC to know, like, hey, you guys are dummies. And I want you to understand that you guys are idiots. And the reason why I'm saying that is you guys are more recognizable and more iconic than Marvel. Yes, Marvel has the MCU movies. That's great. Whoop the damn goddamn whoop. But you guys don't understand. You guys been doing this stuff since the 1930s. So, this is way before Marvel came into creation. So, a lot of your characters are close to 80 years old compared to Marvel's characters who are now getting to 50 or 60 years. You got about 20 to almost 30 years on some of these characters, more than Marvel does. And a lot of your stories are more iconic than Marvel. Whether you want to believe it or not, it happens. But the reason why I'm saying this is because Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are the big three of comic books. Without them three, the rest of this industry does not exist. I understand Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, they created some amazing characters with Marvel, and that's great. That is great, and I'm not going to take away from that. But Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were the pillars of comics. So you have to understand why when you try to put LGBT or when you try to race swap these three characters, it turns out negatively, or you get such a huge backlash response because you got Fox News, you got BBC, you got Japan News, you got some people in China criticizing and talking about this as a stunt and a ploy because people can smell the bullshit a mile away. You have to admit that it's pandering at this point. And to try to include LGBT to the big three does not make sense. I'm sorry. You cannot be inclusive to everybody. You just can't. You cannot. And you have to understand, most of your audience is straight, white, and male. Like it or damn not, you have to understand that. That means that you got to stop trying to force something into something that is not meant to be there. Because, like Dean Cain was saying, there are people who are being persecuted around the world for being LGBT. And you think it's stunning and brave by saying, oh, look, Superman is now LGBT. Oh, okay. And this country bans it, this country bans it, this country won't allow it anymore. Burn all of DC Comics books from the country. Oh, so, and then when you do a movie that involves Superman, no thanks, we don't want it because y'all made Superman gay. You see how this comes as some ramifications? Yeah, that's great for you to try to be inclusive and do diversity for the LGBT community for the United States and maybe some parts of North America and Europe. But understand that most countries do not accept it. And when most countries don't accept it, why did you think it was a good idea to do it in the first place? Because we've seen these tactics where you guys will try to virtue signal in the United States to us, to the American people. You'll try all the time to virtue signal with us just to change when it comes to other countries criticizing you guys. So what are you going to do? What is happening here then? Because are you really willing to have these countries ban DC comic books and DC properties? Like, there are literally countries talking about this right now, and y'all think it's cute what the hell y'all was doing. It's not cute at all. Damn C. So y'all need to figure out something. Y'all need to figure out something. Because you guys are literally have the big three, the most iconic characters and some of the most iconic storylines of all times. And you feel the need that you have to pander to a minority of a minority because people need to see themselves. I'm sorry, that is not how the world works. You don't need to see yourself in nothing. You really don't. I mean, you can be inspired by these characters, that's great and all, but to take characters that are surrounding the big three or to make diverse versions of the big three and try to be like, oh, look, we're being so diverse. No, you're not. You're being lazy and you're pandering. Get it through your thick skulls. You gotta stop this stuff because I'm just gonna tell you, children ain't gonna read this shit. They're not even reading DC comic books. If they are, it ain't the new stuff. It's the old stuff because the old stuff is better than the new stuff. And maybe they're reading the YAs. That's great and all. But even then, you got some of the YAs targeting with LGBT stuff. So again, like who the hell is this stuff made for? Because you want parents to buy the book, right? Okay, cool. But then you say, oh, the main character is now LGBT. But you're saying that comics are supposed to be for kids, right? Don't nobody want to see LGBT Superman or LGBT Wonder Woman or LGBT Batman. They don't. They really don't. Yeah, Greg Rucka said what he said about Wonder Woman, but let's be honest, don't nobody believe Wonder Woman is bisexual anyway. Because isn't it funny that if she was, she sure did give up everything for a man and stayed with him. But she's LGBT. Oh, okay, get out of here with all that nonsense. She grew up on an island full of women, and the second she saw a man, she got the hell on. I mean, I'm just real talk if you really want to get technical. She saw Steve Trevor and she entered the contest to see who's going to be Earth's champion, and she became Earth champion and stayed with that same man that she rescued forever and a damn day. So clearly she's strictly dickly. And you aged up a character that people love. So that's even more weird. That you had to age up a child character in order for them to be part of the LGBT community. Instead of slowly telling the story over years. Yeah, it has to be a year process. It can't be in months or in the first couple of issues. Because let's be honest, let's do real talk. We all know that this book isn't going to last that damn long. I think it might be 1 out of 5 anyway. So the 5th issue might be its final issue anyway. And they might retitle Superman again to try to make the character sell, because they got to try to make John Kent work. They're going to try to make him work whether the fans like it or not, which is kind of strange when you're starting to irritate your massive fan base instead. People always want to be like, oh, I can't believe you guys are talking about this. The comic books aren't for kids or whatever, stuff like that. Well, if they were, little kids would be talking about it. There'll be teenagers making videos about it. But most teenagers are making prank videos, TikToks, or they're talking about anime and manga. I'm just being honest. There are hardly any teenagers. I haven't seen any teenagers hardly talk about no damn comic books. Or little kids. Little kids, if they make any videos, they're talking about kid stuff. And they're not talking about comic books. They're talking about a kid's show. Or they're talking about toys. Or they're talking about anime and manga. I mean, that's the truth. So you haven't even made anime. I mean, you haven't made comic books where kids can talk about it, really. Because you done kind of price kids out of it. I mean, if you guys don't believe me, go watch Perk's videos where his daughter talks about books. She ain't talking about comic books. She seems to barely have any interest in comics. But she does love them children YA books that they have at the Scholasticon, and she loves those mangas because the stories are pretty cool, and the stories that she was reading is a little bloody. But if the story's good, the story's good, right? And there's one thing they didn't have to do. They didn't have to sit up there and be like, "Oh, introducing the new. We're gonna introduce this character, and we're gonna focus on their race, gender, and sexuality in order to get people to read our book." They didn't have to do that. If the character was already there to begin with, it just happened. It just happened. But let's be honest, this was pandering. This was nothing but pandering to a community that never cared about the comic books. Because let's be honest. It's a small population of LGBT in the world, to be honest. That's a fact. That is a fact. You can dispute it all the hell you want to. It's still a small number. It's not enough LGBT people that are going to buy John Kent being bisexual. I mean, I'm just being honest. So, while you're over there pandering to them, are they buying the book? Is the book selling millions? Because y'all can't even pull 500,000 on these copies. Units sold, sale-wise, whatever. Gimmick buys, all that good stuff. It doesn't matter. If they can't sell 1 million copies, if 1 million copies can't get sold, what was the point? Yeah, the issue might spike a little bit. That's great and all. But is the book going to last? Because right now, people are already turned off. There's a lot of articles in the news talking for it and against it. There are countries debating whether they want to even still have DC comic books in their country. Which that can affect the Superman branding, you morons. Talking about, oh, this is great for representation. To who? Because this stuff might trickle down. That means that if this doesn't work, then that means DC will be at a loss. Which means they might go up more on the books to make up for the people that left. Superman franchise might not be able to be pushed in other countries because of it. It's brand synergy. One of the most recognizable icons in pop culture history is Superman's S-Shield. And now you made the S-Shield into an agenda because you just couldn't leave well enough alone. You really couldn't. And again, I'm not saying that the LGBT community is wrong or whatever. What I'm saying is that taking established franchises of the big three, regardless of if it's an alternate universe, if it's the Sun sidekick or whatever, you're still taking the big three franchises and trying to inject that into them. DC has to understand that the world holds DC at a little bit of much of a higher standard than Marvel. Sadly. God dang. yeah, I mean, the movies, the animated series, sure, or whatever. But most definitely, the icons themselves, DC do hold them at a certain standard of prestige, because you guys been around in the zeitgeist of people's minds longer than Marvel. That's why a lot of people weren't familiar with John Kent, because all they know is Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, because those are the most iconic comic book characters besides Spider-Man and X-Men. People are just now knowing about the Avengers. They didn't know them until the MCU happened. They weren't household names until the MCU happened. But Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman been household names since forever for a lot of people. That's why it doesn't make sense when you try to do these gimmicks with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Leave them the hell alone. Mess with everybody else. And when I mean Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, I mean their entire franchise. Because the pandering stuff that you do in their franchises does not work. And now we're at a crossroad where people are having moments where they're like, this is too far. I'm telling you, you guys are literally about to break the back. This is the straw that broke the camel's back almost for something. Because what's going to happen if these countries really do start banning Superman or DC Comics? And when I mean DC comic books, I mean not only the books, that might mean the merchandise, that might mean the games, that also might mean the movies as well. Like y'all didn't think about the ramifications of this. This comes with consequences that you're going to have to probably deal with and answer to. I wouldn't be surprised if DC, Warner Brothers get called into Congress or government for this shit. Because it's something that really is a big deal. Because now people are starting to see it. See, people really wasn't really trying to see it with Marvel. People wasn't trying to see it with Marvel. But people are seeing it with DC comic books. Isn't that funny that Marvel did the same thing and people did report on it? And it took until CB Sobowski came in to, try to backtrack half of the nonsense that Marvel was doing. But with DC, everybody was like, whoa, hold the hell on. Every time DC does one of these announcements, it's major news. And I'm not talking about just in the comic book spheres. I'm talking about in world news politics. Like, isn't that crazy? That DC changes to a lot of their characters and status quo is making more world news than when they make a good story about these characters. So I don't know. I mean, this is one of these foods for thoughts. But DC, you guys are kind of idiots. Like you didn't think about this. Like you guys have the big three: Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and you really think that you need to add diversity to them? Nah. They're worldwide appealing for a reason. I cut the crap, DC, and understand that, hey, we got some changes that we need to do, but this ain't it. You might want to go back to the status quo of these characters, the franchises themselves. No, John Kent doesn't need to be. Tim Drake does not need to be. Leave it alone. Robin, Superboy, Wonder Girl, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman. No, they should not be other races. No, they should not be other genders. No, they should not be LGBT. No, they are who they are. They're there for a reason. And on top of that, it's kind of funny that people are talking about this stunning and brave or whatever and stuff like that. Yes, because DC is obviously changing these characters also. So the creators, families, can't own copyright on this stuff neither. So you're supporting DC being scummy with the copyrights infringement with these characters, because you know a lot of these characters are supposed to be coming up in the moment where they either return to the owners or public domain. But DC and Marvel are trying to tweak the characters around to try to be like, no, we got the copyright still, because technically the character isn't that anymore. And of course, that's why John Kent is Superman, and also bisexual. They would never do anything like that to Clark Kent. Because they know they couldn't. But we need to figure out something. I mean, again, this is just nothing but food for thought. Because it is a discerning thing, because people are starting to wake up about it. Like when you got my parents and you got my grandparents and you got older people questioning what the hell is going on. Why is DC doing something so stupid like that? And then you have to explain, oh, he got a son. Okay, but why is the son bisexual? That doesn't make sense. Superman is supposed to stand for truth, justice, and American way. People still see Superman as truth, justice, and American way. That means American lifestyle of, the average American person. Which is kind of funny since John was raised on those beliefs. So it's kind of weird that they're trying to change him politically, and you get him written by a person that doesn't even live in America or understand America's policies. But yes, let him be the moral authority of what needs to change in the world. Because Australia is doing such great work, right? I don't know. This is just one of those random thoughts that's just happening. We can all have discord about it or whatever is going to happen. I'm just saying, I wonder if this really could affect DC in such a negative way where they have to backtrack. And if they do backtrack, is people going to be okay with it? Well, I mean, they're going to have to be okay with it, because it's kind of funny. It's okay to change things up for people and pander to the less minority of your fan base, but yet you won't backtrack when you fuck up and go back to what the fans like, the majority of the fans like. I don't know. Maybe you might have to. If what's happening now, if all this discord is happening for this character, because I don't know, you kind of put John Kent in a place that he shouldn't have been in, and you put the Superman franchise in a place that it didn't need to be in at either. So I don't know what to tell y'all. So we'll see. We will see. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.